Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome, everyone. My name is Zarinah El-Amin, and today our topic is at their feet. This is the place where we get to sit at the feet of our elders. We get to learn from their wisdom, their knowledge, their experiences, all of the life that they've lived. We get to learn from that and hear from them and hear the things that they want to share with us so that hopefully our communities, our societies, our world can benefit and become better. That is the ultimate goal of why we are doing these At Their Feet sessions. If you've missed any of our previous At Their Feet interviews, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is just look up Zarinah El-Amin. My name is down somewhere, Zarinah El-Amin. Also, you can type in At Their Feet on YouTube or Facebook, and you'll be able to see some of our previous interviews. We always have an amazing good time. We always have an amazing good time. So, for those of you who are here, type in where you're joining us from. I'm going to be introducing our guest for today in just a moment. If you have any questions that come up for you, please put those into the chat box. I would love to be able to answer as many questions that you have for our guest today live, but also we'll be able to catch those on the replay as well. All right. All right. So, last thing, part of housekeeping, if you will, share this out so that other people can benefit. I have heard from so many people about how they enjoy these interviews. I've heard from people who were inspired. I've heard from people who learned something new, right? There's something they never thought of before. So I never know how the interview is going to assist, out there in the world, but what I do know is that they do assist. So what I want for you all to do is share this out on your Facebook page, on your YouTube, like it, all that kind of stuff, which helps us be able to reach more and more people. So I see my auntie is here. Hey, Aunt Caroline. She's here from all the way from Winston-Salem. So I'm going to be interviewing her. She doesn't know this yet, but we're about to put her book together. We talked about it a little bit, but she's the matriarch of our family. And point blank, I want to know. I want to know about our family history. I want to know about, life. I want to know about her life. I want to know about all the things. You know what I mean? So we're going to start doing her book when she comes back. We're going to be getting into her life and preserving her legacy, right? Her written legacy. All right. So dun, 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 dun. Today, I am so excited because I get to sit down with one of my favorite aunties, if you will, and one of my previous clients. Her name is Lynice Muhammad. Sister Lynice Muhammad from Atlanta, Georgia, by way of some other places. So we'll talk about that. But Sister Lynice is the author of My Journey Through the Nation of Islam. So she put together this book. It's been out about 2 years, I think, or so now. And I love, 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 love the fact that she came in to our programs, started getting help with her writing, and she saw it to the finish line. So we're going to talk to Sister Lynice today about her life, about her journey through the Nation of Islam, but also about her life as an author, some of the things that she learned writing the book, and just dig into it. All right. So you all ready? I'm going to bring in Sister Lynice Muhammad. You all welcome her to At Their Feet. Welcome. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Lynice.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Alhamdulillah. Allah is
Uh,
most merciful. So good to be here.
Allah is most merciful. So good to be here. Sister Lynice, one of the beautiful things that I learned when we were doing the weekly sessions for our program, right? The Power Author program, and you would show up and you would give your wins and such. And I think one of the things that I admired about the way that you just do life is that you always have this sense of like remembering Allah in every single thing that you do.
Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.
Look at
That's
it.
my life, sister. That's my life. And it has been for as long as I can remember. I'm just so grateful and so thankful that Allah has blessed me to be here and to be able to share of what He has given me. It's such a blessing. So
Beautiful.
I can't help but give thanks and grace to him for his help. Alhamdulillah.
That's a beautiful thing though, because not everyone has in them that remembrance of God and that thankfulness of God and that just overwhelming sense of gratitude. And I think that that allows us to kind of have some peace in life. Real quick, yesterday, I met a lady out. I went to one of my soul spots. It's like a place where I go walking and I sit down and I look at the creek and all of that. And there was a lady there who was smoking and drinking. And, people have their different things. I'm not judging that. But she was so down. She was such in a state of despair. And she just talked about how her life was this bad and this bad. And she wished she was doing this and she wished she was doing that. And I said, is there anything good going on? Like, is there anything good going on? And she said, I don't think so. I'm sitting here drinking and smoking. I said, well, you walked over here, right? So you walk, that trying to good. And he's, with this way that you have of saying Alhamdulillah, thank God, thank all praises due to God all of the time and keeping that on your tongue. Like, what have you done? Like, what kind of got you to that place? What did you do during those moments where you had some times of despair? Because I imagine you had some times of despair, right?
I have, alhamdulillah. I can agree to that. I'm a human being, and we all go through our ups and downs. I think the thing that keeps me motivated, if you will, is the fact that Allah has blessed me with so much. I've had so many positive people in my life to continuously guide me if I get off the track a little bit. Well, Lynice, such and such. Your mom and dad did this, and your people, they're expecting more of you. I just think that I don't know. I have a sense of just strong religious background. My mother, my grandmother, and everybody were very prayerful women, and I would see them praying, and I don't know. It was just an inclination in me also to pray, and so prayer always brings me back from whatever it is, whatever low mode or whatever I'm in, and that is one reason is just keeping prayerful and just knowing that tomorrow is going to be a better day, or the next few hours or something. This too will pass because you're striving to please Almighty God, Allah.
Mm.
So I'm just so grateful to Allah for all of His blessings. For and each thing that happens to me, I can feel a lesson in it and be able to hopefully share it with others.
Mm-hmm. So, coming from this background of spiritual women, seeing your grandmother pray, seeing your mom pray, one of the unique things about your story, and you put it in your book, My Journey Through the Nation of Islam, is that a lot of people would assume, at that you came into Islam maybe as an adult or, 30, 40, or something like that. A lot of people came into Islam in their adult years who are in your same age bracket. But you have a unique story, and I wanted you to kind of talk about that as far as your family and Islam goes.
Yes, I think that is the unique thing about my family is that Allah bless my father. He was called by the James E. Five Acts, Suleiman Bilal. He renamed himself Suleiman Bilal when Imam Waruddin Muhammad came into the community, took charge in 1975. And I think the thing that was that he had the intuition or just the desire to find something different in his life. So he accepted Islam when he was in his, I would say, early 30s, late 20s. He accepted to become a Muslim and accepted to become a part of the Nation of Islam in the early 50s. It was about 51, 52.
Mm-hmm.
And My mother, who on
So
the
that's
other
the
hand,
beginning, right? Wait, that's the
oh,
beginning. That's
okay, you
the
don't want me to
beginning.
share that
No, no,
yet.
no, 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 no. This is good. I'm just trying to get my timeline right. Like the 50s is the beginning of the
That was the
Nation of Islam.
beginning that was the beginning of our coming into. No, the 30s were actually the
30s,
beginning
right?
of the Nation of Islam. 1930, 1931 was when WD Muhammad, when Farad Muhammad took over and came in and shared, the philosophy that he was sharing with us. But my parents didn't accept until the early 50s. That was when my father we moved from, I told you, from Alabama to Michigan. And there were groups of brothers and things that he would see on the corner in different places that were sharing about this, the Nation of Islam. And so he was just drawn to it. My daddy was never really spiritual. He was my mother was the spiritual one. My daddy was just, he was looking for more militancy and more things
Mhm.
that he could do. So he was drawn to the Nation of Islam. And so, like I said, it was between 1951 and 52 that he accepted. And that was the beginning of our coming into Islam.
Did your
My
mom accept at the same
She
time?
didn't. She did not accept until a couple of years later. My mother was more into the Bible. She was like a Bible student. Her mother before her had been very much into Christianity. So my mother was slower to change, and she would take myself and my older brother with her to church a lot of times. Daddy didn't mind that, but he was not a part of it. The only time he had to do with church was when he first met my mother in Alabama, and he wooed her from the church by going and saying that he wanted to be, a churchgoer. But actually, he was just trying to get this beautiful sister that he saw that he wanted to be his wife. So,
He was
so
trying to
that was
run that game.
yeah,
Daddy was like running
that
that
was the
game.
that was the only time he really was interested in Christianity or going to the church was to get my mom. But going back to Detroit, that was when my father accepted to become a Muslim, and it took him several months to really come into the nation and to understand what was going on and what it was all about. But when he learned about it, that was right down his alley. That was really what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a part of this nation building, community, and so
Mhm.
he joined the Nation of Islam and was very very happy with it. So that was how we started to, look at becoming Nation of Islam Muslims.
Awesome. All right. So you're how old at this time? Or were you born at
I'm about 3.5, almost 4 years old at the
okay.
time when we moved from Alabama. I was born in '47, so yeah, I was just turning 3, 4 years old.
Okay.
About
And you
four
had the
years
older
old.
brother as well.
No,
So talk
but this older brother was younger than me. I'm the oldest of 11 children.
okay. Okay. You're the oldest of the 11 children.
I'm
All
the,
right.
I'm the oldest of the 11 children.
So talk to me about like life, after your father came in, then your mom came in. Like what was that life like being Muslim, in this strange religion because everybody else is Christian. Like going to church is normal for our black, communities. So coming into this quote unquote strange way of life, different than everybody else in your larger extended family, this is a whole new thing. So what was that like actually growing up in the nation?
It was kind of different because we were ostracized. Nobody else understood. Well, why does your mama wear those long dresses, and why is her head covered all the time? And why do you all do this and do that? And then when we went to my relatives' home, we couldn't eat there because, of course,
Mhm.
they were still eating pork, and so we were afraid that whatever we would eat would not be halal, would not be what we could eat. And so, they would kind of stand backish with us and not really understanding why we dared to be different, and why we thought, some of them thought, well, you all think you're better than us now, or this and that, and the other, but it wasn't that. It was just that we were trying to find a different way of life. My parents were, and trying to find the best that they could. So I think it was hard at first for my parents, but they were not distracted from that. They really were very strong and very beautiful examples to their children. It was just myself and two brothers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I was about 4 or 5 years old, and then my next brother would have been a year younger than me, so he would have been 3. And then the next brother was maybe 2, because my mother had stair steps. We were all very close.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they would always keep us dressed really nice and neat, and we had the best of behavior. I can remember my aunties and different ones saying, "Oh, James and Irene's children, they know how to act. When they come here, they know how to sit down, and they don't put their hands on nothing. They just sit, and they know how to be." So mom and dad were trying to instill in us good manners and how to be the best that we could be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, after a while, they began to better understand that we just chose to lead a different way of life. And they would, accept and respect us. They would say, well, Irene, you can come over this time because we don't have pork in this, or you can do this, So they began to accept it gradually, but it took some time.
Mhm. It took some time. You said dare to
Yes,
be different, you guys dare to be different. And I think, that family dynamic, within our families where you have multiple religions and multiple ways of life, because Islam is a way of life. Like literally it affects everything that you do, how you dress, how you talk, how you eat, all of that. So when you're in an environment that's different from all of the ways that you do life, some people can definitely take it personally. As you said, they thought maybe you guys were feeling like you were better than them.
yeah,
But also it can be like a confusing to them. It
it
just
can
like
be.
look weird. It's like, what are you doing? It's just weird. So
Yeah,
I think with our families, my family, we're able to beautifully blend our spirituality. And as you said, it took time, right? It took
yes,
time.
yes,
But your parents didn't punk out. Your parents stayed on their path. They showed who they were and they acted with excellence. And then that caused other people to sort of respect them. That's what it sounds
yes, exactly, exactly. And my father was just both my parents were very kind and generous, and my father was always very generous to my grandmother, to my mother's mother, even though she was Christian. She loved my daddy because he always took good care of her. He would take her and buy her things that she needed, and was just loving and kind to her. So
like.
those kind of distinctions really stood out for
Mhm.
for him. Whereas being a Muslim, they thought that strange, but still, because he was such a kind person, they appreciated it.
Mhm. So your
Hmm.
character is what's the main thing. How you act and treat
Exactly.
people, that's the main thing. All right, so
Exactly.
I wanna talk about education because I know, I was speaking to one of our other authors, Sister Dolores Daima Jardin from LA, and there was a gentleman in the audience, and he talked about, um, their mother going to jail, like, for not putting them into public schools, like that was a really big thing. And I wanted to hear from you as far as like your education, um, and how that was between public schools, private schools, Islamic school, community, all of that kind of stuff. How was your educational process growing up?
Okay, that's a good question. When we first began school, um, about 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, we were able to go to what we called at that time the University of Islam. And we learned that the University of Islam was the name that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Mother Clara Muhammad chose to give to our school because they were trying to teach a higher learning. Our emphasis at the time were on our lessons, lesson C1 and the actual facts and student enrollment and those kind of things. Those were the emphasis. Of course, we were still taught, um, how to read and how to do mathematics and stuff like that. But the emphasis were always on the lessons. So I can recall that it must have been a little bit before we came that I remember Sister Bernstein Muhammad and her husband, Brother John Muhammad, who looked so much like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I would sometimes get them mixed up when I would see them because they were brothers, but they almost looked like twins because they were so much alike. But anyway, they shared with us that they did have to take their children out of Muslim school for a while um, because the powers that be at that time, they had come to the schools and to their homes and told them that it was against the law for them to, take their children out of school and put them, out of public school and put them in Muslim school. And so they defied the law. And so I think I don't know who had to do some time, but somebody did have to do some time. And but after the few months or so that the time was done, they came back and reopened the schools back up and brought the children back again and kept doing it, in defiance because they knew that that was something that should have been allowed to them. They should be, been able to do that. So they just kept being defiant with the law and did it anyway. This was before they moved, before they had the school in Chicago. This was in Detroit, Michigan, which was the very first one. So my brothers and sisters and I was myself, my two brothers and my youngest sister Renee were able to go to Muslim school probably for, I would say, the first kindergarten for maybe the first 6 or 7 years of our life. And then they closed up because different reasons. We didn't have the proper, we didn't have people to help us to do, be able to do it. We didn't have the monies for buying the books and different things like that. So it was closed up for a while. And then later on, I can recall some of my younger brothers and sisters coming back to school. And at that time, it was called Muhammad School. So we did go through a lot of changes in Detroit that I recall. But I can recall going to school with people, like I said, Sister Bernstein Muhammad's children, her older children, Frida and Louita and Elijah and different ones. I can remember their names. Not the baby ones, the youngest ones I don't remember, but I do remember the oldest one. We had a really great time because the teachers there were so devoted and so what they lacked in education, they made up for it in endurance and wanting us to learn so much. And so we were blessed to have, very dedicated teachers for those years that we were there.
So high school, where'd you go to high school?
I went to public school in high school.
So what was the transition like going back from that
It
all
was
that
it was hard. It was very hard
yeah.
because mom and dad were still insistent that I dress the same way that I had when I was in Muslim school, and that we do some of the same things. So as a female child, it was much harder because I was wearing the long dresses and still covering my hair and doing stuff, and so fitting in and trying to blend in and understand, it was a little bit difficult. I can recall one thing that we did was there were other Muslims that also were going to high school at the same time. And so their parents said, well, instead of wearing the dresses all the way to the ankles, let's allow our girls, the teenage girls, to wear it calf length. And so, that made me feel a little bit more comfortable. And I think at first I did still wear my head covering, but after a while I did not wear the head covering. Mama was more concerned that I was dressed decently and that, I didn't lose my Islamic character. So, but it was difficult making that transition. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, even now, like I think this is one of the hardest things for some Muslim students going to public schools is being in the environments where you're the outlier. And as you said earlier, you got to dare to be different. Like you have to have a really strong sense of self, a really strong sense of, confidence, of understanding who you are and not caring about anybody else to be able to be in environments that are so different from what you are trying to do, and without
Exactly.
breaking down, you know what I mean? Like, without it making you go crazy, without breaking down.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. But it was a varying experience, and I appreciate having the experience now. And but it made me to be a little more lenient and understanding with my children, as third generation, Muslims,
mhm,
because
third
I didn't want to completely turn them away from Islam.
yeah. So,
Yes,
okay, so I think you got married young, right?
I
Like,
got
how old
married
were you?
between 18 and 19 years of age. Yes.
So that's, like, right out of out of high school, like, the next year after high school, right?
Well, I graduated from high school early. I graduated at 16. So I had been out of high school a couple of years, but it still was very young. And it wasn't really anything that I had planned. Um, I was hoping that I could at least had finished my college education before marrying. But the situation was different. The brother put pressure on me. It's like, well, sister, we need you. We want you to come and be a part of the community in Jackson, Mississippi. And so I accepted to marry, um, and it was just a very different kind of situation for me because I really had wanted to do things differently, but because of pressure, he was a Muslim minister, and he convinced me that by my marrying him, I was going to be more of a service to the community and to him and to the Jackson, Mississippi community. So that was it was not really so much my heart, I loved him or all of that, but it was just, I guess, community and feeling that I could make a contribution.
Mhm. Mhm. So that
But
sounds like some of that side sounds like your dad in you a little bit. And why I say this is because like you said about your dad like really being, not militant minded but like community focused. Like he wasn't, super duper spiritual at the beginning. He was really focused on like the community stuff is what I heard you say. You can correct me if I'm
yes,
wrong, right?
yes,
But
you're
like
right.
he
You're
focused on
exactly
that.
right.
And
You're
so when you're
exactly
looking
right.
at the marriage, it wasn't all about the lovey-dovey, all I feel so great." It was really about like, how am I going to be a service to my community? And that was
Exactly.
the
That
vehicle.
was it. That
Mhm,
was it.
mhm.
That was it.
So, like marriage and stuff right now, woo, we got so many things, so many conversations, so many discussions around marriage. And my son is 17 and he talks about it a lot. My 10-year-old talks
Ten
about,
year old, your ten
yes,
year old daughter.
10-year-old daughter. The 10-year-old daughter talking about, yeah. So when I get married, I'm gonna need this and this and this, or I want to find this and this and this. Like, so people young start talking about marriage and such and start, really thinking about it like it's not an anomaly, but for you, like what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from that marriage and from building the relationships that you can see that you feel others should really think about or practice when trying to have a successful marriage?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. That's a very good question. I
Mhm.
think, first of all, that we as women, I don't care what age you are, you need to really understand what a marriage entails, how much it's going to require of your time, your effort, and you have to try and really be um, one who is not only understanding. To me, if you get married, as a Muslim woman, I definitely want to have a mate that is a Muslim. Don't marry one that's outside. We need to find out more about our mates, our potential mates.
Mhm.
I said, we some of us get married much too quick. I knew this brother almost 6 months, and he had come to my home, my family, and everyone. So we thought we knew him, but we really didn't. And so I think you need to find other people that are knowing of that person. Make sure that you make contact and know who they are. Um, I just think a marriage is so very important that um, it's something that you should not get into quickly. You need to really investigate and know who it is, and if this person is uh, feeling similar to you, if his feelings or her feelings are similar to yours.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think I would tell if my daughter was getting married like for the first time now, which she's been married uh, 2 times now. Um, I think I would just tell her just to be cautious, daughter. Don't jump into this marriage. Try to find, somebody that feels like you do and somebody that's equally yoked with you. So, and that's not an easy prescription.
Mhm. You're
but
right.
just,
It's not an
but
easy
just finding people who know this person or know something about their family and can share with you about them.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's one of the first things that I would do.
All
And
right.
making sure that, like I said, making sure that they are of the same religious belief and background as you.
Mhm. Yeah, spirituality is definitely important, and respect, and respect for how people practice and things is super important. So how long did you all stay together?
Um, we married in '67, so it was about 7 years,
Okay.
about
Mhm.
6, 7 years.
Mhm. So when
Hmm.
you came out of that, like, did they have a stigma against divorce back then? Because like now, sometimes I don't think we have a stigma right now so much as much. I don't think we have a stigma as much because I guess so many divorces occur now. But it seems to me like back then, people basically they were like, it it didn't matter what was going on in their marriage, like, they were gonna just stay. It could be a
I
hell
know.
marriage, but they was gonna stay or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But I don't agree with sticking and staying. Um, but I think I know when after I separated and came back that I saw so many of our believers, um, to me, going in and out of relationships. I just didn't understand it because so many sisters that I had known, they had married 2 and 3 brothers, not at the same time, but they were married to this brother maybe for 2 or 3 years, and then they married somebody else, and then somebody. It was just to me too quickly,
Mhm,
not really getting to know that person. So
mhm,
I feel that was um, something that we really had amiss in our community at that time. It was just because I can remember this first husband that I was married to. He was telling the believers there in Jackson, Mississippi, to marry. I don't care if you're 14, 15, 16 years old. You need to marry so that you don't get burned, so that will
mm,
not break the law. That was his main concern, not so much that compatibility or as a family, let's try to help this young couple to do something that's going to be better for their life and for their future. But just get together, just get married. So so of course that was not going to work. So we just we got off on the wrong foot on that, I believe.
yeah. Well, we hear that now too, like, get married so you don't fornicate, get married so you don't, as you said, burn or whatever, and that's
Yeah.
a big, big focus of what people do, And so they feel as though, they feel as though if they're doing that and they're not,
Fornicating.
yeah, fornicating, then,
Hmm.
it's good. We gotta really fix this marriage thing though, because of course, most people that have these 3 children that are looking at me, they like, "Look, you and daddy jacked up, so we ain't trying to do what you did." They're like,
Yeah,
So they ask me lots of questions, and I'm okay with them
that's good.
understanding,
That's good.
my faults. I'm okay with them understanding my lessons learned and things that I wanted to help guide them with. But I realized that, with marriage being such a big part of our individual life as well as community life, that is something that we have to be able to like have open conversations about our lessons learned, what we've what we've seen and grown through, so that people can get it better, right? Because our
Exactly.
communities are
Exactly.
failing right now. Our communities are kind of falling apart. I don't know if you see it down there as much, but up here it's
I
like
see
our
it here. I
communities are
see it here
falling.
also, Sister Zarinah. It's everywhere.
Mhm.
What the sister that was in our group that had written the marriage on the Nika.
Yeah,
Um,
Dr. Anise and the
that's
deer.
yeah. We need more people like that in our community who can share with us of how to try and get together, in a marriage bond and how to make it work Islamically. I
Mhm.
think, and more of our imams need to be taught that, because some of them just really don't know,
Mhm.
what to share with the young Muslims who are Muslims or
Mhm.
Muslim males who are trying to get married.
Mhm.
So I just think that's a very important thing that we have missed in our community that we do
Mhm.
need to work on.
Mhm. And the other thing I remember in your book, like you talked about, like the drills that you all did, like in MGT classes. You talked about,
Oh
drilling and a
yes.
lot of discipline. It seemed like there was a
Yes,
lot of
that was beautiful, and I feel that that's something that we need to bring back into our community, to the Wardi Muhammad community. It was a lot of positive things to me that I can remember we did in the Nation of Islam that I feel that we could still benefit from, and that was one of them because, like you say, it taught us to think. It taught us to really, be on our feet, our toes, to do things, not just because somebody is saying this, but you need to be able to think it out and work through something, work through problems, and that the drill was really something that I can appreciate that we as young women learn to do.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, those things, and then I can remember other things too that with the diet, like with the Muslim diet that
Mhm.
we learned back under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Those were things that I think we should have kept. So
So
it's a
did
lot
you
of. Go
like, did
ahead.
you keep them? I'm wondering, like, like you
To
look
a,
good,
to a,
right?
de-
Like to
to a degree,
a
I did,
degree.
Sister
All right.
Serena. Sister Serena. I don't just eat the one meal a day, um, but I try to eat healthy. And that was something too. My mother was into nutrition. She was into, learning for herself how to treat her family and how to help us to keep well, herbally, and through eating good foods. So I try to keep as much of that as possible. So
Yeah,
and,
because 'cause I'm
and
looking
drinking
at
a lot
your
of water.
skin. Yeah, I'm
Thank
like,
you.
"Okay, yeah, give me some tips, because 'cause I'm looking at your skin. You look like, I mean, you're a beautiful lady, so you
Thank
obviously
you.
had some type of routines or something, through your life that have helped you maintain your vibrancy and all of that. Like, give us some tips, like, what you do?
Thank
Drinking
you.
water? What else you do?
Thank you so much. I try to drink at least a half a gallon of water a day. I try to drink more than that if I can. Then I have a routine of taking vitamin C in the morning and taking certain vitamins that I do take every day. I love ginger and turmeric, and I fix a tea that I drink at least once or twice a day from that, with honey and lemon juice in the morning. That's one of the first things I take. I
Mhm.
also use apple cider vinegar, and I usually put some um, garlic and honey and black and cayenne pepper in that, and I mix it, and I take drink just a little bit of that, um, either early morning or late night before I go to bed, along with water. So just different things that I have found that work for me. And I eat I don't eat meat. I have not eaten chicken probably for about 40 years plus, 40, 45 years.
Oh.
I eat fish, I eat sardines, I eat salmon, I eat tuna, um, and then lots of vegetables, green beans and bell peppers and squash and all kinds of vegetables and fruits, and water. I keep going back to the water. The water is very important. Just keep a lot of water in your system.
Mm. All right. So we got water. You drink a half a gallon at least, but try to do more. So
Right.
okay. So these are like, I love to hear these things because I feel like they're practical things that we can do on a day-to-day basis to help us maintain our health and just live better. If we don't feel good, you can't be a member, a viable member of society. Like if you feel messed up, your head, like you can't walk around, like you know what I mean? Like how much can you really help the community if you're not feeling so good yourself? So
Exactly.
these things are super important to me as I'm maturing as I'm maturing, you know, and I'm finding, as you said, what works for me because you said, you found what works for you and then you kept with those things. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
All right,
So
so I want to come to the book because I will have like maybe 10 more minutes or so. If anyone has any questions for Sister Lynice, please drop them into the chat box. So her story, thank you for holding it up, is in her book, My Journey Through the Nation of Islam. My Journey Through the Nation of Islam by Lynice Muhammad. So, Sister Lynice, a lot
yeah,
of people say they have, people have unique stories and such, but not everybody actually does the work to put it into a book format, which you did. So I want to go back to like before you put the book out. What made you actually say, okay, like I want to write this stuff down?
yeah, that's a good question, Zarina, because I had wanted to do this book for 20 plus years. um, and I think what made me really do it was there was a sister I shared with you in our community that was interviewing other pioneer believers who she was just interviewing them and having them to tell their story about their lives in the Nation of Islam from the 40s and 50s and 60s. And so I said, you know what? They're sharing their story, and Allah has blessed me to also live this life. So I have a story to tell too.
Mhm.
And so I began writing down, notes and writing myself um, little, uh, things to make me remember.
Ideas.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Mm.
did that for several years, and I had several books that I had accumulated, but I had no idea of how to put it together, as you shared with us so very beautifully how you began to, you know, do, what did you call it, the dump, the
Yep. Brain
yeah,
dump. Mhm.
brain dump, and put it together, and then put it in some kind of order. So
Mhm.
I that was when I started to do that. But I had, like I said, this had been something that I had wanted to do for many, many years, but I didn't know exactly how to go about doing it.
Mhm.
So it was just that time and effort, time that I needed to take the time to make that effort. So during the COVID was when I actually, sat down and said, well, I'm here in the house, don't have anything that much to do. I'm, can't get out and go and do stuff. So that was when it really, came to me that was the time that I needed to act on doing my book. And
Mm.
Allah blessed me because you were there And not only you, but there were other Muslim sisters. I think there were 6 or 7 other sisters that also were writing their book. And it was a beautiful time because we were able to help one another, to
Yeah.
encourage one
Yeah.
another to do it. And then with your expertise of showing us what we needed to do and being there week after week to, make sure and encourage us to do it, that really made a difference. So I'm just grateful to Allah that Allah blessed you to be on the scene at the time that I needed you.
Aw. Well, I'm happy you took action, because I love to support authors, aspiring authors who actually take action, right? Like, you
Yeah.
coulda came in and you could have been like, "You know what, Z, I'm tired. I don't feel like doing this," or "I don't wanna write it down," or "Just forget it." You
Oh,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, it's too much. But
But to me,
you
there was no excuse. There was no excuse because you made it really easy for us. And then one of the good things was, like I said, people there to encourage one another. That was to me, that was really a beautiful, icing on the cake, as my mother would say.
Mhm.
The other sisters were there trying to do the same thing, and so we could help one another
Yeah.
and make sure that we, reinforce what we were trying to do. So
Yeah.
that was the main reason. But I wanted to leave a legacy for my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, and for others to come about the Nation of Islam. I want them to know, how important it is that we write our stories.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted them to know the sacrifices that the believers during that time had made
Mhm.
for trying to make sure that we lived a life. And these were sincere brothers and sisters. They would have given their life. We had a saying in the Nation of Islam: I'll give my life before my word shall fail. And I believe most of them really felt that. My life is, what did they say? My life is my bond, and my bond is my life, and I will give my life before my word shall fail.
Mm.
And I really truly believe that most of those pioneer believers during that time really felt that strongly and that way about it. And so even though this wasn't the authentic Islam as we now understand it from, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu wasallam, and by way of Imam Muhammad, it was a sincere effort for us to try and build up our lives and do things, that would be more beneficial to us and helpful. So I'm just grateful that, like I said, that Allah blessed me to be a part of the nation and to have parents such as I had that saw, that this was something that we needed to do and be at that time.
Mm. Alhamdulillah. So, Sister Lynice, I went to the page for your book, I don't know, maybe a few months ago or so, and I was reading some of the reviews. Like, what has been the response to you? Like, have people, thanked you for the book, or, what did you get as far as a response from the community? And I'll say this before I let you start, when you do books, there are many different goals, right? There are many people have different goals, I should say, for when they're writing the book. And honestly, some like the writing of the book and just having it for your grandkids and great grandkids is priceless enough, right? But
Yeah.
in your case, you had people leaving reviews on your Amazon page and all of that. So, like, what did you hear as far as the response from any of your readers or such?
Well, the one that really sticks out in my mind was a nephew that I have. And he lives in Texas. This is my sister's oldest son. And I had asked him to write a review. I don't think he ever did it, but he called me. He was so excited when he read the book. He said, "Auntie, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't put it down." And he said, what it was that you shared with us so many things that we never really knew about, our heritage and about, what had happened in our family. And he said, I really appreciated it so much. His name is his son, Jamal Hassan, and I'm gonna get on him after we get off of this again. He needs to give me a review. But he said, I really, he told me several things that he liked about it that he didn't know. He didn't know, for instance, that we had lived on the farm in White Clouds, Michigan.
Mhm.
He didn't know, you know, it was just several things that I was able to share in the book that I'm just bringing in what actually happened. And he said, but this was very, good for me. It was, and it helped me to better understand our family.
I
And to
love
I know the other thing was about my life in Jackson, Mississippi too, with my first husband. A lot of that he didn't know about that. So,
Mhm. There are
mm,
statistics that actually show that children and people who know more about their family history, like they have a better sense of resiliency. They understand, who they are more. They have more confidence. Like all kind of things come from just knowing more about who we are. And I think we can understand that, as African Americans, you and I, knowing how much of our history was cut off, right? Like there's a stop. We don't know everything about all of our past ancestors. But what we can do now is make sure from here on, right? Like from here on that we capture our history and we give that gift to our family. So I'm really super thankful for that. But I'm wondering, like, outside of your family, did you have any other people that were I'm just curious really,
yes,
like
yes,
any other
yes,
people that were.
yes. Several people did share with me, and one friend that um, I know I've known for several years, was sharing with me. She said, "Well, Lynice, I didn't know the intricacies about your family, your brothers and sisters and things." And I shared. I don't know if this part you read about. I had two brothers that were on drugs, and she said that even though they were on drugs, Lynice, they impressed me as still being viable human beings. They were really still trying to understand and to do what their parents had taught them, even though they were on drugs, for many parts of their years. Um, and she said, I love your family from what you shared with me about them. And this is a person I had known for some 20 years.
Mhm,
Um, so, she's not Muslim, she's Christian, but we have been good friends for many, many years.
mhm.
And then I have neighbors over here who also have read the book, and they told me they appreciated it. Just knowing what my life was about. And they see me dressed Islamically, as a Muslim and all, and so they appreciate just knowing a little bit more about me.
Mhm. I love
Alhamdulillah.
I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Sister Denise, you done good. As my father would say, you done good. You have,
Alhamdulillah.
put your
Alhamdulillah.
information down there, preserved it, kept your family legacy alive. Your parents kept their story of coming into Islam alive. Sharing this information is absolutely priceless. It's absolutely
Thank you.
priceless.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you for the help that you have given me and so many others. The encouragement and just that wherewithal to be able to put our books into print. You've done a lot of good, because probably had you not been there, it probably would not have been done yet. So
Well,
thank you.
I hope we inspire other people, like we're gonna restart the Power Author Academy, and I have some other courses coming out. Because technology has changed a lot. It's a lot of
Yes.
technological changes
Yes.
that have come over the last couple of years or so. So I had to redo some of my course. But I'm excited about those people who are interested in being serious. Like you were serious. You didn't play around. So I like that. When people come in and they're serious, and we can actually help them to get it done. So I'm
Thank
going
you
to
so
give you
much.
any final words you want to say to people who are listening.
Well, I just want everyone to know that, since the writing of the book, even though I haven't probably pushed my book as you have encouraged us to sell as many as I needed to sell, I feel really blessed for um, the people who have read it and who have given me feedback. Um, I'm just grateful to Allah, as you said. Um, I wanted to close out with this surah. It says, Allah imposes not upon a soul a duty beyond its scope to bear. It is that which it earns of good, and against it which it does of evil. It says, Allah lays not upon a burden that which we have not the strength to bear. Pardon us, protect us, have mercy on us, for surely Allah is with those who patiently persevere. And that's what I can feel and see with our community as it has grown and as it continues to grow. I'm just so thankful to be a part of it. And I thank you, my sister, for being willing to put our stories out there and help us to do this. What do to finish this and to do what we need to do.
Amen.
And hopefully other brothers and sisters will also take heed and do this.
And do
Do
it.
this project. Tell our stories because this is
Tell
very important. It is something that we need to do.
Mhm. So, for those of you who do not yet have Sister Lynice's book, go to Amazon. You're going to type in My Journey Through the Nation of Islam. You'll see this green cover come up with Lynice Muhammad. Go buy her book. And then after you read it, even if you only read a chapter, leave her a review.
Thank
leave
you.
her
Thank you, Zarinah.
leave her
Thank
a
you.
review on Amazon. That helps us to make sure that other people benefit from our stories, and so that others, learn about community life, about these subcultures of American society as well. So she's done the work. If you're interested in these topics from our elders, go grab the book, My Journey Through the Nation of Islam by Sister Lynice Muhammad. Sister Lynice, I love
Alhamdulillah.
you. Thank you so much. May Allah put blessing in what you're doing by sharing your message. Keep doing do your talks, go live. I know y'all love to go
Inshallah.
live.
Inshallah.
Go
Okay. Did
live,
we did
do
we
well.
have some questions that you needed me to
Yeah, I
look at?
thought that nobody gave questions. They're just happy. They just
Oh,
said, Assalamu
alhamdulillah.
alaikum, alhamdulillah. Thank you, Brother Mansour. He said, I was just talking to my Abu about this. It might have been when you said the importance of capturing our stories. He said he shared this live on all the author pages he's on. Thank you, Brother Mansour.
Thank you, brother. That's Imam Mansour to me. he
Oh,
used to
okay.
be our, he used to be our imam here in Atlanta. He's
Okay,
doing other
alhamdulillah.
work
Oh, I think
now.
this is a
Alhamdulillah.
different one. I think this is a
Oh,
different
okay.
mentor.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
Mansour Abdullah. He's an author too, though. I know him.
Okay.
His
Oh,
family
yes,
tree.
yes. Okay.
Yep.
Inshallah.
Brother Anthony Abdul Haq. Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. Al Islam in the United States. I don't know that page, but wa alaikum assalam. Welcome. Sister Patricia. Alhamdulillah. May Allah continue to bless you both. Awesome.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
I
Thank
mean,
you. So
all
no
right.
questions. Okay.
Nope, no questions. They just love you.
Thank you, Zarina. And
You're
I love and appreciate you.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. All right, y'all. Well, have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next time.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.